the story that is breaking here on Thursday morning as we join you at 11 a.m. Eastern time, as the Chicago Bears are expected to hire Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren as president and CEO. I do not know always the way that these job titles work at the NFL level, but it sure seems that for an organization that is officially family owned, right, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah,
I
that this
own the
is
Chicago Bears, me and my
yes.
family.
Tom Fernelli and his family own the Chicago Bears. That this is the highest ranking employee. This is someone who is going to be making decisions on off the field situations, hiring general managers, the right up at the top of the line for decision making. Of course, Kevin Warren was in the NFL prior to being hired by the Big Ten. He was with the Minnesota Vikings. So there's two sides of this. One, obviously, much more pertinent to the Cover 3 podcast, which is what does this mean for leadership at the top of college football? As being the commissioner of the Big Ten, it's one of the most powerful positions you can be in the entire sport. And then number two, since we got Tom Fernelli right here to give us his opinion on this, what's this mean for the Bears? So, Tom, I'll let you take first crack at this. What's the what are the many angles of this that stand out to you about Kevin Warren leaving the Big Ten for a spot with the Bears?
I think it's a surprise in the timing of it, in that I feel like I didn't feel like Kevin Warren was, Jim Delaney was in charge of the Big Ten for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like Kevin Warren got off to such a poor start in charge of the conference that he was never really destined to be in the role for a very long time. I didn't think it would be this short, but I also think that maybe Kevin Warren, there's a chance that after running the conference, like, he kind of came in and did what the primary goal was when he was hired. Like, when the Big Ten, when they were replacing Jim Delaney, the TV deal was coming up. The number one goal for the conference at that point was to work out a new TV deal to make sure that it stayed ahead of everybody else financially. So they bring in Kevin Warren, who's got plenty of experience in television and in the NFL, to help get that deal done. And he did a terrific job. He got the Big Ten a ton of money. Now, I don't know if adding USC and UCLA is kind of how he got that money. I don't know if that's the wisest long-term decision. It's kind of weird. It's still not really something I think my brain has fully accepted yet, but maybe we'll get used to it like I've gotten used to Maryland, Nebraska, and Rutgers. But he got that done. Now it's kind of a different gig. Like, your TV deal's done for a decade. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on in college football right now that we will be seeing as far as regulations and changes with the NIL, with transfers, with everything, just how they're going to regulate it, who's going to take care of it, and what it's going to be. That I feel like if you don't have a lot of experience actually in college athletics, maybe it's not something he was all that interested in doing. So maybe when an NFL job kind of came sniffing around, because from the Bears side, like, Kevin Warren was with the Vikings when they built that stadium they're in, that very, very nice stadium. Bears right now are trying to build themselves a similar stadium in the suburbs of Chicago. So Kevin Warren for the Bears makes a lot of sense in that role to help them get that done. So I do think that this is, while it's a surprise, I don't think if you polled a lot of athletic directors and presidents and just people that, are in charge in the Big Ten, I don't think you'd have too many people upset about this, honestly, because I think that there's been, just with Kevin Warren's start, which was a very, very difficult position to be in with the pandemic, I just think that got him off on a very wrong foot with a lot of people, with relationships that he was probably going to have a very difficult time ever really fixing or having people trust him as far as his judgment call for what to do with the league. So it's probably better for all parties involved. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go from here. I'm guessing you're going to see somebody who has more experience as far as college athletics are concerned, whereas you see, like, the Big 12 went with Yormark, who did not have much experience as far as college athletics, but they were looking for a TV deal. And I think that's kind of just, what you're going to see. When your TV deal comes up, we want somebody in charge who can help us get the best TV deal. When that's done with, okay, now we got to run our schools.
I don't have a ton of a take on this, and it's not because I don't like or do like Kevin Warren. I just kind of think of conference commissioners for the most part as, what are the skills required? If you can be a consensus builder inside the room. You're dealing with a diverse set of voices. I mean, some programs like Ohio State are very different in what they want than like a Purdue, and they have different wants and needs, and yet they all exist within the same league. I mean, it's kind of like the baseball commissioner. Rob Manfred doesn't or shouldn't do things that the owners don't want him to do, right? That's kind of what a good commissioner does. He works for the owners. In this case, the owners are the schools. I wonder if this job is, like to Tom's point, is easier to fill now because of the big money that they got. And eventually we will get to a spot where the teams are having to pay out their own players. The Big Ten will be in a better position to do that than almost any other conference, just given the amount of money that they make. So I guess that's the one question I would have is like, if we think this is going to more of a pro model, does it make sense to go sort of more towards the collegiate side of the spectrum with that hire? But I obviously don't cover the Big Ten, like Tom does. He lives there. Can we talk about the Bears? Are you happy to have him as a Bears fan?
I mean, it's team president. I don't care. They're trying to build a stadium. You know what I mean? I feel like it's the
Is
last
it closer
Bears,
to your house or further away?
it is further. It's actually closer now where I live, so it's closer. But I don't care. I'm not going to a Bears game. Like I was a season ticket holder for a few years there when they were down in Champaign. Came back to Chicago when the new Soldier Field opened. I would rather watch football at home anyway, especially NFL football.
Fair enough.
I think it is a pivot point in which how far we can accelerate down the line of professionalizing college athletics. And I think that the hire that is made because of who the Big Ten is and the space that they occupy within the college sports space, I think that that'll tell us whether the Big Ten university presidents are ready to take big steps forward. Because, as we're starting to look at the landscapes, the candidates that might be on the table fit a couple of those buckets because there is, obviously in one hand, Jim Phillips, Northwestern athletic director, current ACC commissioner, relationships with a lot of the Big Ten university presidents, relationships with a lot of the Big Ten athletic directors, and someone who, over his time as ACC commissioner, has really tried to drive home a lot of the old collegiate model. We got to think of ourselves as one of 32, not one of 5. We got to take care of all of our other sports. Like a lot of that talk that is very much leaning away from moving forward towards professionalizing college athletics. But if they go out there and if they make a hire like, I don't know, like a Mark Silverman, an exec from Fox, or a Burke Magnus, an exec from ESPN, now we're starting to talk about professionalizing college athletics and capitalizing on college athletics as a television property, as a media property, and as a entertainment business. Those sorts of decisions are going to be made by Big Ten university presidents who, I have not relitigated what happened during COVID, but Tom, you make a great point, and I know that that's part of this conversation as well, that Kevin Warren thought he was going to be a leader when he shut everything down, and he thought everybody was going to fall in line. And then, the SEC and the Big 12 are like, no, we're playing these games. We are not going to cancel our entire season. Then Kevin Warren, of course, had to bring the Big Ten back, play a very, very small schedule. It was very disjointed. And while it got Ohio State into the national championship game, it did not net the Big Ten a national championship like a lot of people had thought. He somewhat, in my opinion, salvages his tenure with the new media deal and the addition of UCLA and USC. It's a little bit of a wash, right? You have started a little bit off, not really being able to read the room of the larger college athletics landscape, but you finish it with putting the Big Ten in a position where you are one of the leaders of college athletics moving forward. So if I'm grading the tenure, it was fine. It was a fine tenure. You got some of the biggest goals accomplished. You overcame some early hiccups. But in terms of what this means moving forward, the hire to me tells me how quickly we get to the point where, like it's been suggested, conferences are going to lead the way in the NIL business, that schools won't pay players as much as conferences could enter into NIL deals with all these athletes and be able to pay players. That is one path for us to get to players getting paid out of the big bucket of money that is media rights deals. I think that a hire of Jim Phillips or somebody who's a former athletic director or from the academic side of things, more or less, or the university side, probably means that happens slower. I think a media exec means that we might get a little bit closer to seeing that as a reality. I
will say I agree with you on the TV deal kind of washes it out as far as accomplishments in the conference, but I think from based on what I've heard, the decision to postpone, which was then, they started the season, had the short season. It wasn't so much that people in charge disagreed with the decision, although plenty did. It was more that most of them felt like they weren't a part of the decision, which is what put Kevin Warren in kind of a bad spot with a lot of people in charge at the schools he's supposed to be in charge of. So going back to like what Bud was saying, like if you're the commissioner, like in an MLB commissioner role, your job is to keep the owners happy and to make sure that they feel involved and like they're part of the process. Right off the bat, he made a lot of people feel like they weren't involved and weren't part of the process, which is kind of what dug him the hole. So I think everybody's very happy with the TV deal, but I don't know that the relationship between him and the people in charge was ever really going to fully heal.
On the Phillips point, and I'm the guy whose AirPods won't connect today, so if we had the echo for like the last 2 minutes, I apologize. I didn't hit mute when I wasn't talking. I think Phillips, I'd be interested to see how he would act if he has cards to play, right? In the ACC, I think it's very clear, like his main thing is keep Florida State, Clemson, and God, hopefully not the Carolinas from leaving this league, and try to placate them somehow, like if you do feel like they have leverage to get out. Because I definitely think they want out. Maybe not North Carolina, I can't speak for them, but the schools that are football first, and in some cases like Clemson football only, I definitely think they want to jump. So the ACC doesn't have a lot of money and cards to play. So Delaney is, I think, or excuse me, not Delaney, Phillips is sort of limited as to what he can say. So he kind of leans into the things that are non-financial, collegiate model, making everybody happy with lacrosse and all these other sports that nobody watches, but a lot of schools, support.
And win championships. Like ACC is out here in the, like, we are winning Olympic sports championships, and we had 26 championships in the last academic year. Like they're doing a lot of pointing to that.
And you could triple the number of championships in sports nobody watches, and the cards he would have to play would be the same because those don't bring in any money. So the Big Ten is more like a business. And I'd be like, would Phillips act the same in the Big Ten as he does in the ACC? Maybe he'd be like, hey, my message is consistent, collegiate model, blah, 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 blah. Work behind the scenes like a gangster to move the Big Ten forward. I think he's limited to what he can do in the ACC.
All right, so listen, Lynn and I have been watching Jack Ryan lately, so a lot of espionage on the brain. All right. What if Jim Phillips went to the ACC to develop, contacts, sources, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia Tech, any school he wants, with the understanding that Kevin Warren would get the TV deal done. And then Kevin Warren would leave after he gets the TV deal done. And then Jim Phillips would come back to the Big Ten with his contacts in the ACC and pull them to the Big Ten, and they go to 20 teams.
If you could give Georgia Tech $20, I think they'd leave their league right now. They're broke as a joke.
So I did think Danny Cannell joining the conversation as well, fresh off CBS Sports HQ. So I did think about, remember in the alliance, like Jim Phillips agreed to the alliance, and then the Big Ten just stabbed everybody in the back and like went to the front of college athletics with the new TV deal. I mean, that's really him paying his respects to the people at the back room of the Big Ten. Be like, hey guys, I showed you what I can do for you. I blocked this college football playoff expansion until you were ready to move forward. So that now I've shown you the sacrifices that I can make. Will you now choose me as your new commissioner?
It's a done deal, right? I mean, don't we all expect that that's going to happen? Jim Phillips to the Big Ten?
I expect him to be on the very short list of top candidates. I do think that there's the possibility that they could end up going with someone from the TV side of things.
I'll also throw my hat in the ring. Yeah. I will run the league if they have me.
Yeah. What about us as a group? Like, why you got to leave us out? We could run it.
I would hire the three of you in a heartbeat to work for me.
The ACC might hire us because who the heck, that would open up a whole nother can of worms. But if you're looking at the situations, the way things have unfolded, like, of course you would go to the Big Ten. It's it's one of the two super conferences. Being in LA, being around some, football people on that side, the only question was, Jim Phillips, what does he do then with the Big Ten? If everything's already in place and you've got some of these situations that could unfold that aren't going to be too pleasant, do you try to stay at the ACC and put your stamp on the ACC with more upside of your legacy and what you could bring to the conference? Does that make sense?
I think that it's kind of nice that you don't have to deal with the media rights negotiation, and all you have to do is keep university presidents happy. Like that's where Jim Phillips
makes a lot of money.
Yeah. That's where Jim Phillips is like, I can do this. Like if I was Jim Phillips, I would sell myself. Like you don't need someone to, really go through and Svengali everybody in conference realignment. You don't need somebody to go play hardball because you've got this media rights deal built out for the next little bit. All you need to do is just keep all the university presidents in line, and I'm better suited for that than most of the other candidates on this list.